Hare Krishna. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Tadati Shwaparam Vande Ham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakama Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Shahagana Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakantam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabhandhu Jagate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namosti Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Stuti Devi Pranamami Parikriya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Sri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So welcome back, all the devotees, to our class. So in the previous class, we have discussed about the Yoga Rudha and Yoga Rurukshu. So Yoga Rurukshu means the beginning step of yoga practice. And Yoga Rudha means when one attains the perfectional stage of yoga. And what is that? That is devotional service to Krishna. Bhakti is the perfectional stage of yoga. So we shall continue from that point. Today we hopefully can cover from text number 10 to 32 of the 6th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Yeah. So there are two parts of our discussion today. The first one is that stages in yoga practice and samadhi from text 10 to 27. And then 28 to 32, we will be discussing about the perfectional stage of yoga realization that will be focusing much into meditation to Paramat. Having described the stages of Ashtanga Yoga, Krishna next explained the practice of those stages. By practicing yoga with determination, controlling the mind and fix the mind on the super soul, one attained the stage of perfection called Samadhi, wherein one enjoys unlimited transcendental pleasure. Okay, so continue, text number 10. A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always careful control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. So in this verse, it is mentioned about ekaki. Ekaki means alone. So now Lord Krishna will explain to Arjuna how to practice Ashtanga Yoga. And we will see that actually Arjuna rejected this process that Krishna recommended because it's too hard, really tough. Here it is mentioned that we have to be alone. He should live alone in a secluded place. Yeah. The first business, Srila Prabhupada explained, the first business of a transcendentalist is to keep the mind always on Krishna. One should always think of Krishna and not forget him, even for a moment. concentration of the mind on the Supreme is called samadhi or trance. Smartavya tatam Vishnu Vismartavyo na jatu chit sarve vidhi nisedasyo etayor eva kinkaraha. So there are two rules, most important rules in our Krishna consciousness practice. First one is that Smartavya Satatam Vishnu, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned here, that one should never, Smartavya Satatam Vishnu, one should always think about Vishnu or Krishna. And then Vismartavyo Na Jatuchit, one should never forget. So Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vinaya, always think about Krishna. Man Mana Bhava Madhva. Krishna advised that in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So that's the first business of the transcendentalist. Somehow or other, we should always think about Krishna, somehow or other. Yeah. And Srila Prabhupada continue, in order to concentrate the mind, one should always remain in seclusion and avoid disturbance by external objects. We should be very careful to accept favorable and reject the unfavorable condition that affect his realization. And in that perfect determination, he should not hanker after unnecessary material things that entangle him by feelings of possessiveness. So there are three things mentioned here in the second part of the Prabhupada discussion that I put in the slide. First one is that we should avoid any disturbances, external objects. That means we should avoid the association of the non-devotees. Actually, one time the Prabhupada explained that alone, being in a secluded place means not mingling with the non-devotees, not mingle with the non-devotees. That means we have to keep ourselves in the association of the devotees always. And we have to be very careful to accept whatever favorable and reject the unfavorable. These two things, rejecting and accepting, these are actually the first two of the 6 symptoms of surrender, fully surrender to Krishna. Anukulyasya Shankalpa Pratikulyasya Vadhyama. So whatever favorable in our Krishna consciousness practice, we have to accept it. Like always eating prasada and always taking the good association of the devotees, and avoid whatever not favorable, like avoid to, no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, and no illicit sex. This should be avoided. That's why we are following these 4 rules and regulations, because these are unfavorable for our development in Krishna consciousness. Pratikulyasha, pratikul means unfavorable, pratikulyasha. We have to reject the unfavorable things, like, prajalpa, for example. Well, these 2 things actually will be described in much detail by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Instruction, Upadesha Amrita. Text number 2 and 3 describe this: rejecting and accepting, rejecting the unfavorable and accepting whatever favorable for our Krishna consciousness. And then we should not hanker after unnecessary material things. So as Srila Prabhupada used to explain that we can work, we have to work, because in order to maintain the body, we should work. Nobody will be alive if he doesn't do any work to maintain his body and soul together. But we should avoid prayasa. Prayasa means over endeavor to collect unnecessary material things in our life. So that's. And text 11 and 12. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusa grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low, and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities, and fixing the mind on one point. So we have to, sit erect. The back should be straight. Sitting in a place where the platform is not too low or not too high. Sitting on the kusagrass covered by deer skin and a soft cloth. So these are actually, and we should not move. We should fix our eyes only in the tip of our nose in one point. So like this. But how long we can sit like this? So Arjuna, Prabhupada explained that Arjuna, he is a great yogi actually. He's a great devotee. Yet he rejected this advice that Krishna gives here. And what to speak of people, most of the people in Kali Yuga, they cannot sit even, for 10 to 15 minutes, 10 minutes. They cannot sit without moving or sitting on the back with the back straight. Well, some people can do that, but most of people in the Kali Yuga, that is impractical. So what is being described in these verses 11 and 12, frankly speaking, for the people in Kali Yuga, it is really tough and impossible. Suchao Desi, Krishna mentioned, the sanctified place. Sanctified place. Normally, people in the ancient time, they went to the forest to do some tapasya meditation, because in the forest there's no disturbances. But nowadays, it's hard to find the forest, pure forest. So it's always there is some disturbances, pollution. So it's hard to get this kind of forest, sanctified place. So Chao Desi. Sacred place refers to places of pilgrimage in India. The yogis, the transcendentalists, or the devotees all leave home and reside in sacred places such as Prayag, Mathura, Vrindavan, Rishikesh, and Hardwar. In solitude, practice yoga where the sacred rivers like Yamuna and Ganges flow. But often this is not possible, especially for the Westerners. For the Western. So sacred place, Suchao they say, means the place of pilgrimage. But Srila Prabhupada, he went to the West. Of course, Prabhupada mentioned here. But often this is not possible, especially for the Westerner. Prabhupada mentioning all these holy places like Prayag, Mathura, Vrindavan, Rishikesh, Haridwar. Yeah, for the Westerner, it is uh, it is not possible. Often it is not possible. Well, yeah, because most of the holy places are in India, where some in Nepal, where in Bangladesh also, but mostly, in India, Sri Lanka also, but mostly in India. That's why Srila Prabhupada mentioned here. But often in the West, it is not possible. That's why Srila Prabhupada actually came out from India to create holy places all over the world. So we know as devotees, holy places means where there is there are some activities, worshiping the Lord, glorifying the Lord, like this. Yat sangalabdham nijavirya vaibhavam irtam muhu samsprisatam himanasam haratyajunta srutivirgato angajam ko vaina sevita mukundami. So holy place means when there is devotee, when there are some devotees, performing spiritual activities. Yat sangalabdham nijavirya vaibhavam irtam muhu. So association with the devotee is actually giving um, higher benefit than simply visiting holy places. Yeah. Because the body of the devotees itself are considered non-different with the holy places. Bhagavad Bhagavata Tirtha Bhuta Swayam Vibhu Tirti Kurvanti Tirthani Swantastena Gadavrita. So by associating with the devotees, actually we get in touch with the holy places. Because first of all, the body of the devotees are engaged in Krishna's service, and whatever engaged in Krishna's service, that becomes spiritualized. That becomes spiritualized. Srila Prabhupada often he gives the example of iron being touched by fire. So this iron will get the same quality as fire, and if you touch that iron, you will get burned. So like that. So yeah, Srila Prabhupada of course mentioned here, but often this is not possible, especially for the Westerners. Therefore, he went out of India and create holy places all over the world, all 108 temples. He created 108 temples all over the world. He creates new Vrindavan, new Mayapur, Gita Nagari, all these holy places. So that makes us possible actually to visit Suchao Desi, holy places. Because to practice yoga, we need to be in a sanctified place. Well, of course, we may argue that we can chant Hare Krishna wherever, whenever and wherever. In one purport, not in one purport, in one lecture, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that whether we are living in the heaven or in the hell, we must continue to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Mhm. So we may argue like that. Why do we need to uh, practice yoga only in the sacred place, in the sanctified place? Well, the answer will be because it is more favorable. It's more favorable. Because in a holy place, we find like-minded people. Like-minded means we have the same mentality, we have the same thought with the people. Like here in Mayapur, for example, practicing devotional service is much easier than outside Mayapur or outside any holy places. Or let's say like in a big city, like in the in in Hyderabad, for example. Yeah, temple is there, but because most of the people are non-devotees, so to practice to keep ourselves always enthusiastic in performing devotional service is really tough. Mm. But here, when we have community, everybody is devotee, so it's much more easier. So the point here is that Suchao Desi, holy place, means where there are devotees who practice Krishna consciousness, who engage themselves in Krishna consciousness. That's holy place, especially the place where there is Sankirtan Yagya and Krishna Katha. There are three things actually: Krishna Katha, Sankirtan Yagya, and worshipping the deities. That becomes holy place. Suchao dese pratisthapya. He must be situated in a very sanctified place. Stiram ashanam atmanam. The ashan, the sitting place, should not be changed. And how should the sitting place be selected? Na ati uchritam. Not too much raised nor too low. And chaila jina kusotaram. Chaila means a cotton sitting place. Then deer skin. Yogis sit on either the skin of a tiger or the skin of a deer. Why? Because they are in a secluded place, and this skin have some chemical effect. If you sit on a deer skin, then the reptiles and snake won't disturb you. I was searching for the reason why Krishna is mentioning this tiger skin or deer skin. Why the yogi should practice tapasya, yoga, should sit on this. animal skin, deer skin or tiger skin. So I found this lecture, Srila Prabhupada explained that because it has some chemical effect by which the reptiles will not disturb you, like snake will not disturb you. And yeah, if we observe this proposal that given by Krishna to Arjuna seems to be impractical. Yeah, where we will find this kind of place? I mean, like we may find it, but it's really difficult for us to practice. The seed should not be too high, not too low, and it should be like this, covered with pusa grass covered with soft cloth, deer skin, tiger skin. We should see only the tip of our nose, and this kind of meditation will give us perfection after thousands of years. Tritiya Dhyayatho wisdom. And this actually suitable only in the Satya Yuga. Satya Yuga. But now people have Prayanapa Ayusha, very uh, short, short life, short life. So it's not possible, especially we always being disturbed, Ayusha sabya kalo wasmin yuge jana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya yupadurtaha. Unless you really determined and very rigid kind of person, then only you can practice this kind of yoga. Sitting in one place, sitting in one place. Nowadays, it's hard to sit even for a few minutes without moving and half close your eyes. Most of the people who are practicing this kind of yoga half close, and then finally, after a few minutes, completely close their eyes. So yeah, Arjuna is a great devotee, great yogi. Yet we will find later that he rejects Krishna's proposal on this. Okay, next, this also. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate on me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. So it's really tough, unagitated mind. Unagitated mind is like you have to really focus on Krishna, focus on the Paramatma, completely free from sex life. The so-called, in the modern days, people are opening so-called yoga center. It's actually provoking uh, more desire to have sex, because first of all, in that same place, same room, same studio, whatever they call it, men and women are mingled very freely, and the way how people dress, like completely disturbing the mind, and who will not be carried out with the desire of enjoying the opposite sex. So yeah, that is not yoga actually. It is not yoga. It is just gymnastic. We will find out what is the real meaning of yoga in the next few verses. Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and the Vishnu Murti situated in one's heart is the object of yoga practice. That means the object of meditation, dhyana. Remember this chapter's title, dhyana. Dhyana means meditation, concentrating one's mind. So for the yogis, the object of their meditation is the Paramatma, the Vishnu form, the four-handed form. And Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, Swartagati. To realize this Vishnu Murti within the heart, one has to observe complete abstinence from sex life. Therefore, one has to leave home and live alone in secluded place, remaining seated as mentioned above. One cannot enjoy sex life daily at home or elsewhere and attend a so-called yoga class and thus become a yogi. So brahmacharya is very important aspect actually for those who want to advance in spiritual life, because the meaning of yogi means one who practice yoga, and yoga means to build our connection with the Paramatma, with Krishna, the Supreme Lord. And just like if we want to light up a fire, can you imagine if you want to light up a fire, but at the same time you are pouring water on it, so it's like useless. You try your best to light up the fire, but once the fire light up, you pour the water, then the fire will be extinguished. So similarly, we want to have spiritual progress by practicing yoga, but at the same time, if we cannot control our senses, especially uh, you know desire to enjoy sex life, then there is no question of having spiritual advancement. Tapasya brahmacharyena samena cha dhamena cha yagena satyam sauchavyam yamena niyamena va. So these are actually uh, moral ethic. It's just being nice. So tapasya, being austere, is not spiritual. Please make note that spiritual tapasya, tapasya, austere, brahmacharya, practicing celibacy, tapasya, brahmacharya, samyenacha, being equal to all living beings, samyenacha, dhamenacha, tyagena, being renounced, satyam, truthfulness, saucham, cleanliness, satya sauchavyam, yamena niyamena va. And it just being nice. It is not at all spiritual. So, but first of all, before we become spiritualized, first of all, we have to become nice. So it's just moral, actually, being a moralist. Brahmacharya is simply a moralist. But then also, it helps us to raise us into the platform of Sattva Guna. Just like Sattva Guna is still on the material platform, but that's very favorable base, favorable foundation for us to practice Krishna consciousness. Of course, we can practice Krishna consciousness in any situation, in any modes of material nature. It doesn't mean that those who are too rajasic, they cannot practice Krishna consciousness. They can, but that nature will hamper their advancement in Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So like that, especially enjoying sex life is, for most of the people, are really tough. Just like in the past time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when his Guru Maharaj, Gaur Kishoradas Bhavji Maharaj, uh, passed away, left his body. So there are so many so-called Babajis, they are claiming that no, actually I'm the one who's eligible to perform the final rites. But then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur came and he shouted that I am his disciple and I am a celibate brahmachari. None of you should touch his body. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, none of you should touch his body. You will be allowed to touch his body if at least you don't have sex for 1 month. Now, who never have sex for 1 month, please come forward. So out of all these Babajis, nobody came. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur reduced, okay, 1 week, nobody came. And then 3 days, nobody came. And 1 day, nobody came. So yeah, controlling sexual desire is very difficult, not so easy. But when we are able to control this material desire, especially sexual desire, then only we have a clear vision about what is the goal of life, and that is Krishna. Krishna is the Swartagati. the topmost goal of life. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj advises his father, Tatsadu manye suravarya dehinam sada samudvignadiyam asadgraha itvat mapatam griham andakupam vanam gato yadharim ashrayeta. So Prahlad Maharaj said, this family life, griham andakupam, it's a dark well because there is always temptation to enjoy sex with one's wife or one's husband. Therefore, Grihastha ashram is actually very elevated. So when we talk about Grihastha ashram, that's very elevated. For for example, like this, on Ekadashi, when you decided, okay, you made up your mind, you decided that you're gonna do nirjal today. But then somebody came with a plate of prasadam and put in the front of you. How much you can tolerate that? If you able to, do your nirjal with such determination, that means you're really a tough guy. So Grihastha ashram is also like that. We want to have spiritual advancement in Krishna consciousness. So we try as much as we can to control our sexual desire. But at the same time, our wife is next to us. If we can tolerate this sexual desire, then our life will become successful. Yeah. So the point here is that if we want to have spiritual advancement, the sexual desire should be reduced. If it is cannot be give up at once, it should be reduced. So Grihastha means actually uh, we get license. We get a license to enjoy, to enjoy. But that also should be within rules and regulation of the scripture. Otherwise, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned here, if we enjoy sex here and there, then there is no question of becoming a yogi. Children at the age of 5 are sent to the Gurukula. Brahmachari, Gurukule Vasandanto Gurovita. Kumaramacharya Pragyo, Prahlad Maharaj also explained, Kumaramacharya Pragyo. Since the very tender age, actually, a child should be trained in Krishna consciousness or the place of the spiritual master. And the master trains the young boys in the strict discipline of becoming brahmacharis. Without such practice, no one can make advancement in yoga. One who, however, follows rules and regulation of married life, having a sexual relationship only with his wife, and that's also under regulation, is also called a brahmachari. That's why we heard many times the term Grihastha brahmachari. That means he's a householder, but at the same time, he refrained from having uh, illicit, illicit sex, and more strictly, only having sexual intercourse with his wife for the purpose of begetting Krishna consciousness children. So he is also considered as a brahmachari. So brahmachari training is very important actually. I think we have discussed this in the previous class that it's different when you become brahmachari after you graduated from college and someone who become brahmachari since the very day of their life, getting some training in Gurukul. The quality will be really different. Okay, text number 14. Thus, practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence. Yeah. So unless we completely devoid of material desire, then we cannot actually stop the material existence. Why we exist here? Because we have material desire. Why we have material body? Because this material body is a mean to fulfill our material desire. So as long as we have even a tinge of material desire, we will not be able to completely stop our material existence. And as a result, we cannot go back home, back to Godhead, the kingdom of God, the abode of Krishna. So we have to practice to control the body, mind, and activities. Body, mind, and activities. Deha, mana, and karma. The ultimate goal is practicing yoga. Sorry, the ultimate goal in practicing yoga is now clearly explained. Yoga practice is not meant for attaining any kind of material facility. Keep this in mind. It is to enable the cessation of all material existence. One who seeks an improvement in health or aspires after material perfection is no yogi according to Bhagavad Gita. So Srila Prabhupada is very clear here that if we practice this and that movement, this, gymnastic for the sake of getting health, that's that's actually not real yoga. Well, maybe that's yoga, but it's just gymnastic yoga. Because the ultimate goal in practicing yoga is Krishna consciousness, is to help us to develop our dormant love for Krishna. Text number 16. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleep too much or does not sleep enough. So eating too much will make us feeling lazy, sleepy, and eating too little will create also disturbance because we'll feel weak also. So both eating too much and eating too less having the same effect. The effect is will make us feel weak. You might be experiencing when you eat too much. For example, you come in the Sunday feast program, and because the prasadam is so nice, you eat too much, and what happened? Immediately you feel that, oh, I want to go to the bed, and eating too little also will create disturbance. The body feels weak. Sleep too much, or does not sleep enough. This also. So everything should be balanced. Yukta hara viharasya, yukta chitasya karmasya, yukta swapna bodhasya, yogo bhavati. I think we'll come to that verse later. Yeah. Regulation of diet and sleep is recommended herein for the yogis. Too much eating means eating more than is required to keep the body and soul together, which is called atyahara. Padesmritan. Atyahara. There is no need for men to eat animals. Srila Prabhupada explaining in the broader sense. There is no need for men to eat animals because there is an ample supply of grains, vegetables, fruit, and milk. So Srila Prabhupada is condemning here the slaughterhouse. That because actually the human body is designed in such a way to be a vegetarian. One of the proof is that we don't have fangs, sharp teeth. We don't have it. But if we analyze those animals who have sharp teeth, so they meant to eat the meat like tiger, lion, dog, cat. So their body is designed in such a way that they survive by eating meat. But the body of human is designed to be vegetarian, actually, to be vegetarian. And there is an ample supply of grains, vegetables, fruit, and milk. According to the scientist research, that to produce 1 kilo of meat, the farmer needs to feed the animal 100 kilos of grains in a farm. Those who are working in the slaughterhouses, they studied this. In order to produce 1 kilo of meat, they spend 100 kilos of grains. So we can imagine so much waste, so much wasting grains in order to produce meat. Yeah. Because they want the cows, the sheep becomes very fatty, so they feed with grains like this and some chemical, of course. But if we use this 100 kilos of grain to feed human, then there is no question of starvation actually. So why people are starving? Because some people in this world are greedy. They are taking more than what they need, and as a result, other people they don't get. Srila Prabhupada in Upadesmrita in his purport to that verse, Atyahara Prayasa verse, Prabhupada gave the example of pigeon, the bird in the street. If we see the pigeon in the street, so if we throw a bag of rice, so they will eat only, the pigeons, they will eat only whatever they need, and then after that they left. But human, if a human being who has more intelligence, if see a bag of rice on the street, so he will take the whole bag. That's called greed. Laudyam. Nor can one who artificially abstains from eating, manufacturing his own personal process of fasting, practice yoga. The Krishna conscious person observe fasting as it is recommended in the scriptures. He does not fast or eat more than is required, and he is thus competent to perform yoga practice. So we do fast, yeah, we do fast on Ekadasi, for example, on Ekadasi, we are fasting on some appearance or disappearance of some acharyas like this, and some festival like Janmashtami, Ram Navami, Gora Purnima, like this. We are fasting because it is recommended. One who eats more than required will dream very much while sleeping, and he must consequently sleep more than is required. So it is advised that at night, as much as possible, we have to avoid heavy meal. Prabhupada advised that we can drink milk, that's very nourishing. We can drink milk while we are reading something like Krishna book. A cup of milk will be best before sleeping. So, but of course, sometimes when we get too much allurement, feast like that, we cannot control ourselves. But it is advised that at night we should not eat too much, otherwise it's hard to get up early in the morning for Mangalarati. And it is a fact, it is true. One should not sleep more than 6 hours daily. Yeah, Prabhupada mentioned in his purport here. You may have heard this many times from some devotees that how much we have to sleep, how many hours we have to sleep out of 26, out of 24 hours, sorry, out of 24, how many hours we should spend for sleeping. Some devotees said should not sleep more than 7 hours, 6 hours, like this. Of course, the Prabhupada mentioned here 6 hours. I found one magazine, Back to Godhead magazine, where Srila Prabhupada mentioned sleeping is compared to python. If one sleep more than 7 hours, in that magazine, Srila Prabhupada mentioned 7 hours. Here, Prabhupada mentioned 6 hours. But please make a note that this statement is not an absolute statement, that it should be like this for everybody. Because, for example, those who are sick, they need more rest. The babies, they need like almost 20 hours to sleep. It's like that. But for uh, general people, like those who are young, the age of 16 to 45, 6 hours is actually best. Yeah. One who sleep more than 6 hours out of 24 is certainly influenced by the mode of ignorance. Yeah, because sleeping too much is one of the symptoms of a person who's affected too much by the mode of tamasic, tamogun, keeping dirty or not keeping clean. Tamasic. Yeah, this is the verse that I was quoting earlier. Yukta hara viharasya, yukta chitasa karmasu, yukta swapna bhodasya yogo bhavati dukkha. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. Extravagance in matter of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, which are demands of the body, can block advancement in practice of yoga. So this ahar nidra bhaya, maitu, these are the demands of the body. Those who accept material body will always have this four tendency, four things to be fulfilled. This demand: eating, sleeping, defending, mating. No one is actually free from all these four things as long as one has material body, gross material body. Whether you are Indra or Indra Gopa. Indra means the king of heaven. Indra Gopa means little insect, small insect. It's called Indra Gopa. You have this four tendency. And if we engaging so much in these four activities, so we cannot practice yoga nicely, especially for us, this bhakti yoga. So we cannot get advancement. Ahar nidra bhaya maitunam cha samanya etat pasubir naranam. So if we are simply engaging ourselves in these four activities, ahar nidra bhaya maitunam, so pasubir naranam, we are non-different from the animals. These are the tendency which are exist both in the animals and also the human. But one thing that uh, there's one what do you call this advantage by getting the human body, that is we can understand about dharma. Samanya etat pasubir naranam dharmo hitesam adiko visesha. So adhikar means our right, our privilege to get this human form body. Our one of our privileges is to understand what is dharma. Dharmena hina pasubi narana. If we don't understand about dharma, then we are as good as animal. Pasubi narana. That person is considered to be pasu, animal. Dvipada pasu, two-legged animals. Okay, as far as eating is concerned, it can be regulated only when one is practiced to take and accept prasad, sanctified food. As far as sleeping is concerned, a Krishna conscious person is always alert in the discharge of his duties in Krishna consciousness. And therefore, any unnecessary time spent sleeping is considered a great loss. If you read this book, there is one nice book actually by Srutakirti Prabhu. The title is "What is the Difficulty?" So Srutakirti Prabhu is one of Srila Prabhupada's personal servant. He got the chance to serve Srila Prabhupada more than 2 years. So there actually, while serving Srila Prabhupada, he wrote diary Like, we find also Hariswari Prabhu, he wrote some dairy, transcendental dairy. So Srutakirti Prabhu also, he has dairy, and that book is called What is the Difficulty? So there, actually, there are so many nice pastimes and realization that he narrates that book. So one of the pastime was, so Srila Prabhupada actually, uh, he has, of course, his room. Inside his room, he has his desk where he used that big table to do his translation work on Srimad Bhagavatam or writing any books. So he has also a big bell. He told his servant Srutakirti Prabhu that when I ring this bell, that means I need something. So you have to come out. Oh, sorry, you have to come in. And he said yes. But one day, what happened was, after serving Srila Prabhupada's lunch, so everybody, all the devotees took prasadam, including him also. And then Srila Prabhupada, after taking lunch, he didn't have nap. He continued to work on his, translating the Bhagavad. And because Srutakirti Prabhu, of course, he was the one who cooked for Srila Prabhupada, serving prasadam, and he took prasadam, and he saw that other brahmacharis, they are sleeping. So he thought that I also I want to sleep. Why I should not sleep? Okay, I also want to sleep. And he slept. And then Prabhupada rang his bell. Ding, 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 ding. And he didn't come. And Srila Prabhupada rang like long time and really loud. And Srutakirti Prabhu realized, oh, Srila Prabhupada is calling. And immediately he rushed to Srila Prabhupada's room for obeisances. Prabhupada asked, why so long? Where were you? And he said, sorry, Srila Prabhupada, I was taking nap, but just patting his table. Taking nap? Why? What about all the brahmacharis and sannyasis? Yes, Prabhupada, they're all taking nap. And then he told Srutakirti Prabhu, bring them all here. And then Srutakirti Prabhu came. That time there was also Brahmananda Prabhu. He was a sannyas at that time, and all other devotees. So he woke them up and told that Prabhupada is calling all of us. Then immediately they came, and Prabhupada said, okay, please take Nectar of Devotion and start reading. So they start reading page after page after page. And Prabhupada said, okay, stop. And Prabhupada gave the advice that actually we should not spend our precious time just for sleeping. We get enough time at night to sleep. During the day, if you don't have any activity, better you read book. If you don't go out for Sankirtan, better you read book. So that was Srila Prabhupada advice. Yeah, that's nice book actually. What is the difficulty? It's like a little bit thick, but my experience, just want to encourage all of you. As I was reading, one pastime, one realization after another realization by Srutakirti Prabhu, I felt like really nice, and I want to read more. So that's really nice book. I highly recommend that. Of course, Hariswari Prabhu's diary is also recommended. Okay, as far as work is concerned, a Krishna conscious person does not do anything which is not connected with Krishna's interest, and thus his work is always regulated and is untainted by sense gratification. What is the ideal work? What is the meaning of economy? The meaning of economy is described in the Bhagavad Gita. What is that? Krishi Goraksha Vanijam. This actually, Srila Prabhupada emphasized to this so much that we have to, build we have to have our Vaishnava community where we have self-sufficient, self-sufficiency. We grow our own food. Prabhupada, of course, he condemned this kind of modern work, ugra karma types of work, because that is not favorable actually for our Krishna consciousness. We may argue that okay, the result we will offer to Krishna. Okay, if you are a beginner, that's fine. But after you join Krishna consciousness movement for 20, 25, 30 years, still you are doing the same ugra karma types of work, then where is our realization? Just like this one devotee gave me an example. Just like when a boy fall in love to a girl, you know, when they just started their relationship. So the boy, um, he doesn't have anything much, so he just grabs some random flower on the street and give that as a gift to the girl. The girl will be very happy to accept that. But if he keeps doing it for 20 years, just giving random flowers, so the girl will become so upset, not appreciating as how she appreciate in the beginning. She doesn't feel that romantic anymore. It's useless. For 20 years, you keep doing this, just giving me flower. Why don't you buy a house? Why don't you buy a car? Like that. So similarly, Krishna also like that. In the beginning of our Krishna consciousness, okay, because you know we just beginner. So okay, whatever type of work that we have, okay, like modern work, it's okay, we can do it. But as we are actually advancing, we're supposed to be advancing when we join 20, 25, 30 years old, 30 years in the movement. So we have to get some realization that this actually what Srila Prabhupada wants. Prabhupada said that actually the rank of his instruction should be taken like this. First and foremost is Srila Prabhupada's purport. Srila Prabhupada's purport in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is the topmost rank in Srila Prabhupada's instruction. If we are looking, uh, if we are prioritizing Srila Prabhupada's instruction, we have to take this. And then secondly is his books, other books other than Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, his book. And then after that, his lecture. And after that, conversation. Then after that, his letters to different people. But actually, one time Srila Prabhupada mentioned that actually this letter should not be published publicly, because some of the letters may be very confidential and not be applicable to address all the devotees, everybody, because Srila Prabhupada say different things to different people depending on their situation. So Srila Prabhupada told actually Brahmananda Prabhu that at that time Brahmananda Prabhu said, we uh, we are on the phase to transcribe your late not transcribe, yeah, transcribe your conversation, your lecture conversation, and we will publish along with your letter. And Prabhupada said, why? No, 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 don't publish my letter, because sometimes that is not applicable to all of us, because Prabhupada is addressing people in personal way, in a personal manner. So what is suitable for you may not be suitable for me. Yeah, like this. Therefore, our priority should be first Srila Prabhupada's purport on these three books, and then his other books, and then lecture, and then conversation, and later. Yeah. And we found a lot actually in Srila Prabhupada's purport that he's wanting us to do some work which is actually related to Krishna. Cows, land, these are related to Krishna, and these are the natural occupation for all of us actually. It is natural occupation. Anyway, forgive me if I talk too much on that, because when I get into this topic, I always feel like enthusiastic to talk about it. Because I myself also, I grew in a village, and I came from a farmer family background. I had 6 cows. I still remember that. I had 6 cows. I have my father. He has like quite big plot of land where we grow peanuts, our own rice, paddy, and corn. That days, the aim of our growing things just to fulfill our family needs, and if any excess, then we sell, because we are living in the village. We don't get so much access to the outside world, you know. And that's actually beautiful. When you don't have something, you just come to your neighbors and ask, and they will give for free. But nowadays, even among the devotees, money is the base. Money is the base. But yeah, village life, village culture, that's how it is. Like everybody is uh, connected with each other. But now, even sometimes people don't know who is staying in the next door, never communicate. In one building, different flats, they don't know their neighbors, their names, they never talk. This is city life, actually, modern life, city life. And we are proud of it, and we are saying this is modern civilization, advancement, technology. Yeah, this technology will keep us separate from one another. We are busy with our gadget. We are talking with somebody whom we never met, mm, all the time, and we are neglecting the closest person next to us. That's sad. Okay. This is called yukta. We should eat simply for keeping healthy condition. We shall sleep simply for keeping healthy condition. But if you can reduce, that's nice, but not at the risk of becoming sick. Yeah. So our purpose of sleeping is to keep the body healthy in order to perform nice service to Krishna. Similarly, the purpose of eating also to keep the body healthy. But if we can reduce, Srila Prabhupada said, that's nice, but not at the risk of becoming sick. One time, Srila Prabhupada was asked, what should be our priority? Our health, our sadhana, or our preaching, or what? And Prabhupada said that first is our health, and then second is our sadhana, then preaching. Because without having good health, we cannot perform our sadhana, our service nicely. And without having good sadhana, actually, we cannot become a good preacher. The empowerment of our words actually comes up to the degree of how much seriousness we have in practicing our sadhana. Because when we practice our sadhana nicely, we get up early in the morning for Mangalarati, we chant our 16 rounds nicely. So attend Srimad Bhagavatam class. The potency of our words is actually very powerful, and that will penetrate people's heart. So like that. So first, health, sadhana, and then preaching. Because in the beginning, because we are accustomed to eat voraciously, so don't try to eat less artificially. You eat, but try to minimize it. We find also, uh, yeah, this was narrated by Srutakirti Prabhu in that book, What is the Difficulty? So he said that the beginning of our movement, Srila Prabhupada would cook by himself to feed all the devotees. And after that, Srila Prabhupada would serve the hot puris to all his disciples. And then after that, Srila Prabhupada would wash the pots alone in the kitchen. One time he found Srila Prabhupada was washing the pot at 10:30 at night. Everybody was sleeping. Srila Prabhupada was washing the pot. That much how Srila Prabhupada was eager to feed all these new bhaktas with Mahaprasada. So that was like, the first 2 or 3 years of our movement. But then after that, some devotees already taken second initiation, even take sannyas. Then Prabhupada gave this advice. Now you are already a brahmana, you are a sannyas, you have to reduce your eating. But it should not be artificially, otherwise we'll become sick and create more disturbance. But actually we have to try to minimize. Therefore, there are prescription of fasting, at least 2 compulsory fasting in a month, that is the Ekadasi, and there are other fasting days. The more you can reduce your sleep and eating, you keep good health, especially for spiritual purpose, but not artificially, But when you advance naturally, you will not feel. Yeah, this is from his lecture. Okay, next. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. Mm, Yukta. Yukta means well situated in yoga. Therefore, for people in general, especially those who are not in the renowned sphere of life, transcendental engagement of the senses and mind, as described above, is perfect process for transcendental achievement, which is called yukta in the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, I think this one is clear. Text number 19. Yata dipo nivasasto ningati sopama smrita yogino yata chitasya yunjato yogam atmanaha. As a lamb is in a windless place, does not waver, so the transcendentalist, whose mind is controlled, remain always steady in his meditation on the transcendental self. Like person who has fixed determination or steady in his mind, he can control his mind, so he will not be agitated. Like, for example, Srila Haridas Thakur, he was completely absorbed in chanting of the holy name. And when this prostitute came, he didn't feel agitated. One time I was discussing, just having some casual talk with one of my friends here in Mayapur. We talked about Haridas Thakur, how glorious he is. Then my friend said, "Oh Prabhu, if me, maybe I will get agitated." I said, "Well, if me also, I will get agitated." Because our mind still not controlled. But by keep chanting, keep practicing our sadhana, gradually this Chetodarpana process, Chetodarpana marjana, marjana means to clean our mind. So gradually we will become steady in our practice, our mind, nistha. That's why these 9 stages from Shraddha to Prema, this nistha is actually everybody should strive to get this being fixed. Nistha means being fixed in our sadhana, fixed in our faith, fixed in our determination in Krishna consciousness. Then we will be safe. Then we will be safe. But of course, it is not 100% guaranteed. We can find the example of Bharat Maharaj. Even he was already on the level of bhava, just almost entering the prema, that is bhava, ecstasy, spiritual ecstasy. Yet, because of little deviation, he got attachment of this baby deer, and he has to undergo another 2 more lifetimes before he get complete liberation. But of course, Niha Vikramana Susti Pratyagayo Navidyate Swalpama Piyasa Dharmasya Trayate Mahatobhaya. So there is no loss. Of course, there is no loss, but we shouldn't take granted of this verse that okay, there is no loss. If I stop now, I will continue next life. Well, yeah, but why? We have to wait if the chance is already there now in the front of our eyes. A truly Krishna conscious person, always absorbed in transcendence, in constant undisturbed meditation on his worshipable Lord, is as steady as lamb in a windless place. Yeah, here, Haridas Thakur, the example. And also Prahlad Maharaj, undisturbed, and Ambarish Maharaj. Of course, there are many other examples. 22 to 23. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to realize and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in a boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, it thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. That means we understand here that as long as we still have attachment to this body, so if any miseries come to life, we will really feel it. But when we completely detach, not artificially detached, but truly detached from this material body, if any miseries come, we will not feel it. Because first of all, we completely understand that I'm not the body. Secondly, we absorb our mind, our thought in Krishna. Madasraya katamrista srinwanti kathayanti cha tapanti vividastapa naitan madgata chetasa. It is described that those who are fully absorbed in Srinwanti, hearing Srinwanti Kathayanti cha, hearing and hearing Krishna Katha and chanting his glories, of course. Srinwanti Kathayanti cha, tapanti vividastapa. Although miseries come to his life, but he doesn't feel it because he completely absorbed in Krishna Katha. That we can feel it when we come to such a level, pure level, not artificially. Otherwise, we may think that, oh, yeah, I try to listen to Krishna Katha, but why when I get this problem, I get that problem, I feel so sorrow? Yeah, because we are not completely absorbed. By practice of yoga, one becomes gradually detached from material concepts. This is the primary characteristic of yoga principle. So what is that? The first characteristic of one who is advancing in yoga, he becomes detached from material concept of life. Today's so-called yoga practice, which involves various sense pleasure, is contradictory. A yogi indulging in sex and intoxication is a mockery. Even those yogis who are attracted by the siddhis, perfection, in the process of yoga are not perfectly situated. If yogis are attracted by the byproducts of yoga, then they cannot attain the stage of perfection, as it is stated in this verse. What is the fourth prayer of Siksastakam? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Na danam, na janam, na shundarim. Right? So this why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned these three things. I don't want dhanam, don't want wealth, I don't want jana, follower, sundari, beautiful women. Why? Because these are actually the byproduct of our practice in Krishna consciousness. Okay. Byproduct means the side effect. Byproduct means something will come automatically, even without we desire. It will come. It will come. And here, Prabhupada mentioned, if yogis are attracted by the byproducts of yoga, then they cannot attain the stage of perfection. Okay. For example, when you are nicely engaged in devotional service, preaching, or whatever, people will start giving you some donation. Oh, you are doing so nice. Please, Prabhu, accept this. Sometimes people say like this, please, Prabhu, you are engaged so nicely in Krishna consciousness. Please take this for my purification. For my purification. Please accept this. And if we attach with that one, that means when we attach with that one, next time we are doing some preaching, some whatever service, and then we are expecting, oh, after this must be there will be some devotees will give me some donation. And then that is dhanam. And then janam, when you give nice class in the public, people start following you, following in the sense of they admire you, they glorify you. Wow, Prabhu, your class is so nice. When you will give class again, Prabhu? Or maybe you upload in YouTube your class, something like that. So you get a lot of followers in your Instagram, whatever. And when you become attached with that, you will get intoxication. You will get intoxicated, and your goal will change, will slightly deviate, will deviate. At first, your goal will be preaching for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. But now, having a lot of followers, your goal will be how much views do I have in YouTube? That's for example. And then Sundarim, naturally, the opposite sex will get attracted by you when you sing kirtan nicely, when you give class nicely. So these are actually byproducts. That's why na danam, na janam, na sundarim, pavitam va jagadi sakhamani mama janmani janmanishwar. The only thing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks is to become the servant of Krishna life after life. Doesn't want wealth, doesn't want follower, doesn't want beautiful women, because these are called byproducts. And if we attach with this byproduct, then we cannot attain the stage of perfection in our Krishna consciousness practice. And because we are devotees and Krishna always love his devotees, doesn't matter what. If somehow or other we get attached with all these byproducts, later on Krishna will give us a good sense by which we will feel regret. Sthana vilasi tapasi stitoham tvam praptavan deva muninda guryam kachan vichimvam apidivyaratnam swamin kritarthosmi varam nayacche. This is the prayer of Dhruva Maharaj. First, he wanted wealth. But then, Kachan Vichinvam Apidivyaratnam. And then after he got this wealth, this boon that he asked by practicing yoga, meditation, he got it. And what happened? Kachan Vichinvam. He said that all this wealth is just like broken pieces of glass in the street. It has no value. and I'm so stupid, I'm so foolish, why I demand this from you? So Krishna will give us the sense of being regret. Then we'll come to our good sense that yeah. Text number 24. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control the senses and all on all sides by the mind. Yeah, because actually all the senses before they are acting, actually mind will give some kind of instruction. The mind will dictate. The mind will dictate. Okay, whatever it comes from mind first. For example, uh, like when you think of some food, your favorite food, for example, like rasgulla or paneer sabji, whatever. So it comes from the mind, and then it agitates the tongue. And what happened? Your mouth will full of saliva. That's how it works. And then the other parts of your body, okay, will try to fulfill this desire which is comes from the mind. Your leg will walk to get some ingredients. The hands start cooking like this. So if we can control our mind, we can control all other parts of the senses. But of course, controlling mind is not so easy. The practical thing we have to do is that by engaging the tongue. Tongue is very wild actually. Always wanted to say something, always wanted to taste something. Tasi Krishna Namadi Nabhavet Graham Indriyahi. So Sevan Mukhe Jiva, Sevan Mukhe, engaging the tongue in two ways, chanting of the holy name and tasting prasadam. So that's the way how we get purification. And then minds also will become purified, will become purified. And when the mind is controlled, when the mind is purified, all other senses also will be controlled. So it's like interconnected. The yoga practitioner should be determined and should be patiently prosecute the practice without deviation. One should be sure of success at the end and pursue this course with great perseverance, not becoming discouraged if there is any delay in the attainment of success. In the attainment of success. So once we enter this movement, Krishna consciousness movement, actually we have to set up a goal that yeah, one day that final day will come and some Siddhir Harito Sanam, I can please Krishna, I can please Krishna. This mentality we should have in our mind. That at the end of our life we have to be able to remember Krishna. Anta kale chamam eva smaran mukta kaliva. We have to be able to remember Krishna. Ante Narayana Smriti. Bhagavad, what is that? Ante Narayana Smriti. To be able to remember Lord Narayan, Krishna at the end of our life. Yeah. And we have to be always enthusiastic in performing our service. If any delay in our attainment of success, that's fine. It's just a matter of time. We'll come to our perfectional stage. Doesn't mean that once you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, you will be able to be free from material desire. Yesterday I was having a class for the first batch of the English Bhakti Sastri. One devotee was asking me that, you know, once it is described that once we, what is that verse? Mama maya durajaya mam evaye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. So once we surrender to Krishna, we will not be affected by Maya. He said like this. Is it true, Prabhu? I said, completely true. Once we surrender to Krishna, Maya will not touch us. And then he said, why, Prabhu? I've been joining the movement for a few years, still I'm affected by Maya. I said, don't worry, you are not the only one. I'm also still affected by Maya because Mam Evaya Prapadyante means not only surrender to Krishna, but fully surrender to Krishna. So it doesn't mean that, once you chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, you will be completely free from material desire. Well, to the degree of our surrendering, Yayathamam Prapadyante Tam Stataiva Bhajamyaham. To that degree also, Krishna will reciprocate. To the degree of our seriousness in our chanting of the holy name, to that degree, it will give the effect. So yeah, but it's just matter of time. So just continue our practice. Now we're still affected by Maya. We realize that we are affected by Maya. Yes, at least we realize now we are affected by Maya. But before coming to Krishna consciousness, did we realize that we were affected by Maya? No, we simply in Maya without realizing it, that we are in Maya. But now at least, oh, yeah, I'm in Maya. Just like a diseased person, when somebody is sick, and then he knows that, oh yeah, this kind of disease I have. Then what is the medicine? That means he knows his disease and he knows the medicine, and he gonna take this medicine, and very soon he will get cured. So that's our situation now. Okay, we know that this is Maya and this is the medicine. Eniche Oshadi Maya Nasi Barulagi Harinama Maha Mantra Lautu Bimagi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, give us this medicine, Oshad, Oshad, medicine, Oshadi Maya, medicine to cure our material disease, Maya. And it's for free. Allowed to be Magi. Please take it, it's for free. But before coming to Krishna consciousness, we simply in Maya. But we don't know that we are in Maya. That means we are sick, but we don't know that, we don't realize that we are sick, we are having some disease. And as a result, we don't want to get the remedy because we don't know that I'm sick. Actually, I am sick, but we don't know. But I don't know that I'm sick because I don't know, out of ignorance. So I don't get the medicine, and as a result, worse. The body will become worse. So yeah, like this also in Krishna consciousness. After coming to Krishna consciousness, then only we hear the word sense gratification. Before coming to Krishna consciousness, we simply enjoying sense gratification, but we never heard this word sense gratification. But we simply enjoy sense gratification. But after coming to Krishna consciousness, we heard this word many times, sense gratification. And we realize, oh yeah, that time, that day, we were enjoying so much. Okay. Anyway, this is a long purport, but just like this small bird, sparrow, whose egg was taken by the ocean. So she was very determined, try to, dry the ocean by taking the water of the ocean using his small beak. So seeing its determination, so Garuda came and just asked the ocean to give back her eggs. So similarly, when we are determined in our practice in Krishna consciousness, Krishna will be very pleased. For example, like Mukunda Datta. Yeah, we come to the pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mukunda Datta. He was one of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's close associate, but he has this duplicitous nature. Although he is close associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he has duplicitous nature. When he's in the association of when he meets the devotees, oh, he will, having some kirtan nicely, aesthetically, having discussion on Krishna Katha. But when he comes to the assembly of the Mayavadis, he also taking their practice, glorifying that, oh, ultimately God is just impersonal Brahman, like this. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't like. But of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, uh, Mukunda Datta was very dear to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then one time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Govinda, his servant, that don't allow Mukunda to see me anymore. I don't like his duplicitous nature. In the front of us, he glorified Krishna, but when he meets the Mayavadi, he glorified mm, the impersonal aspect of the Lord. I don't like this because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stated that the greatest offender of to Lord Krishna is actually the Mayavadis. Why it is considered to be the greatest offense? Because the Mayavadi think that after giving up this body, we will become God. I'm God, you are God, everybody's God. So this is the greatest offense. And Prabhupada explained that this is the last snare of Maya, is when one thing, one is God. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Govinda, don't let him in. I don't want to see him anymore. And then that day Mukunda came, and then he told Govinda, Govinda, I want to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Govinda said, no, 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 no. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that you are not allowed. And Mukunda said, no, I'll stay here. I'll wait for him to allow me. And then Govinda came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and told him, so Mukunda Datta is waiting in the front of the door. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asked by Govinda again, when he can take your darshan. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Govinda, tell him that he will get my darshan after 1,000 lifetimes. And then Govinda came out and told Mukunda Datta that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that you will get his darshan after 1,000 lifetimes. And what happened to Govinda? What happened to Mukunda? He immediately danced in ecstasy. Oh, after 1,000 lifetimes, oh, I will attain my success. I will get his darshan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's darshan after 1,000 lifetimes. What a benediction. He was jumping in ecstasy. So seeing that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes very pleased and told Govinda, okay, bring him in. Because he has this vision, determination that one day I will get it. One day I will. Okay, determination, utsahan. For this Brita, we'll learn. 25. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence situated by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. So this self here refers to Krishna. And one see the self as master, like in that verse, Vidyate Hridaya Grantis Chidyanti Sarva Samsaya Shanti Chasya Karmani Drishta Evat Manishwari. Drishta Eva Atmanishwari. That verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. That when one see the self as master, one will be immediately able to cut off his attachment. Vidyate Hridaya Grantis. Hridaya Granti means attachment of the heart. Chidyante Sarva Samsaya, all his doubts, his misgivings will be terminated when one sees the self as master. So that self, that verse refers to the Lord. When we see Krishna as our master, we'll be able to cut off our material attachment. So similarly here, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. So the self refers to Krishna, because you see, Prabhupada put here is letter S is capital S. So whenever we address Krishna, like when we say he, referring to Krishna, the letter should be capital H. So like by proper conviction and intelligence, one should gradually cease sense activities. This is called pratyahara. So pratyahara means when we withdraw our senses from engaging it in material activities. So in that Ashtanga yoga step, there is called pratyahara. Pratyahara and then dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. In other words, although one is involved with matter, as long as the material body exists, one should not think about sense gratification. One should think of no pleasure aside from the pleasure of the Supreme Self. This state is easily attained by directly practicing Krishna consciousness. So this is called, if you remember in last week, Yuga Rudha. Yuga Rudha means Yoga Rudha. Yoga Rudha means the perfectional stage of yoga practice. That is Krishna consciousness. Whereas the Yoga Rurukshu is the Ashtanga yoga step. Start from Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama. Text 26. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Yeah, it is the nature of the mind. It is the nature of the mind to be obstinate, wandering here and there. But as we know that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that in the morning we have to beat our mind 100 times with broomstick, and then at night before sleeping we have to beat our mind 100 times with our shoes. That means we have to always remind ourselves that it's the goal of life. Krishna. The nature of the mind is flickering and unsteady. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. But a self-realized yogi has to control the mind. The mind should not control him. One should control the mind, and therefore the senses as well. Is called Goswami. One who controls the mind is called Goswami or Swami. And one who is controlled by the mind is called Godas, or the servant of the senses. Swami means master. Therefore, even in Indonesia, the wife call their husband Swami, means master. So this word Swami means master. When we master the senses, when we control the senses, that means we are Goswami. But when we are controlled by the senses, that means we are the servant of the senses, Godas. A Goswami knows the standard of sense happiness. In transcendental sense happiness, the senses are engaged in the service of Rishikesh, or the supreme honor of the senses. Krishna, serving Krishna with purified senses is called Krishna consciousness. That is the way of bringing the senses under full control. What is more, that is the highest perfection of yoga practice. So Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam, Bhakti Ruchati. Somehow or other, engage our senses in the service of Rishikesh, the master of the senses, Krishna. The lecture Srila Prabhupada said, so unless one is not master of the senses, his accepting this title of Swami and Goswami is cheating. One must be master of the senses. That is defined by Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami. They were ministers. When they were ministers, they were not Goswami. But when they become disciples of Lord Chaitanya, Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, and was trained by him, they became Goswami. So this is referring to those who are in the sannyas order. So those who are sannyas actually should be able to control their senses. should be able to control their senses and show good example. Otherwise, any sannyas not showing good example in the public, like not controlling their senses, like, you know, they not be very much respected even among the devotees, because sannyas should be very strict in their dealings, especially their dealings with the opposite sex and their eating also. Some sannyas may still love to drink some pop, some soda kind of drink, some soft drink. Actually, that is not recommended for the sannyas. But I have seen, I'm not trying to criticize anybody here, but I have seen some our ISKCON sannyasis, they still having this attachment to drink this kind of soft drink, which is actually not recommended for sannyas. They should be able to control their senses. Hare Krishna. 27. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is free from all reactions to past deeds. Those who self-realize means understanding that his identity, he has qualitatively the same with the Supreme, that is the Satchit Ananda, but quantitatively is different. Lord Krishna is Vibhu and we are Anu. Lord Krishna is the greatest and we are the small part and parcel of the Lord and meant to serve. Happiness comes to a yogi even before he attains perfection. This is interesting. This is from Sarendra. That for us who are practicing Krishna consciousness, happiness will be obtained even before achieving the perfectional stage, because the path of bhakti in itself is actually susukam kartum avyayam. Susukam kartum avyayam. This is joyfully practiced. When we have kirtan, we feel so much bliss. We are taking part in the honoring prasadam, so much bliss. We are hearing Krishna Katha, also hearing Krishna's pastime, so much bliss. So for us in Krishna consciousness, whether we still not getting the perfection or we already perfected, both are actually giving bliss, because the path of bhakti is giving us pleasure. Okay, that was the first part. We have another 12 minutes for today's session. This is the second part, perfection of yoga, realization of Krishna as Super Soul. So after describing the yoga practice, fixing mind on the self, Krishna explained the realization of the yogi. The yogi, a Krishna conscious yogi, is the perfect seer because he sees Krishna situated in everyone's heart as Super Soul. He sees Krishna everywhere and everything in Krishna. Thus, he sees all living entities equally. Vidya Vinaya Sampani, you still remember that verse from the previous chapter. Okay, text number 28. Thus, the self-controlled yogi constantly engaged in yoga practice becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. Self-realization means knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. The individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme, and his position is to render transcendental service to the Lord. Nityera Krishna Das, Swarupa Jivera Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. So self-realization means when we understand our constitutional position, our swarup. And this is actually, that's why Srila Prabhupada many times explained that bhakti starts when we already liberated. What is liberation? Swarupena vyavastitihi. When we uh, understand our swarup and act accordingly, according to that swarup. Swarup means constitutional position. Swarup. Swarupena vyavastitihi. That means we are liberated. Therefore, bhakti starts after liberation. When we understand that we are Krishna's servant and act, that means we are liberated. That's how bhakti just starts. But of course, we have to always feel humble that, oh, I'm not at all liberated, I'm still entangled in this material world. By keeping this mentality, actually, we will attain progress very quickly in Krishna consciousness. Because one time Srila Prabhupada mentioned that why there are so many fall down. He was referring to sannyasis, disciples. Why there are so many fall downs? One of the reasons is that because my disciple, they don't afraid Maya enough. Because they are thinking, oh, now Maya cannot touch me. Because mam evaye prapadyante mayametam tarantite. Now Maya cannot touch me. So one becomes negligent. And Maya is always one step behind us, looking for an opportunity when we are neglectful, and he will catch us. Therefore, it's always good to keep ourselves, remain humble and having the mentality, I'm always in Maya. In one morning walk, Srila Prabhupada was asked by one of his disciples, Prabhupada, sometimes, sometimes I'm in Maya. And Prabhupada said, you are sometimes in Maya? I think most of the times you are in Maya. This is also from Sarendraram to me. The previous verse described the yogi who attains self-realization, who realized that he is not his body, but a soul qualitatively one with the Brahman, one with Brahman. This verse described going beyond that realization to realize the super soul, thus the yogi, one who is in touch with the supreme self, experiences sukhena, transcendental happiness. Because of Brahma, samsparsam, being in contact, being in constant touch with the Supreme. This liberation is achieved by practicing yoga with a controlled mind and thereby contacting the super soul. Matra sparsa, this sparsa, samsparsa, means the contact. Matra sparsa sukhantiya. By the contact of our senses with the sense object, we get pleasure like this. So, like yehi sangsparsa ja bhoga, that verse also. Sparsa means contact. So it is described here there are two levels of self-realization. The previous verse explaining about when one understands that he's not the body, he's the soul. And then the second level of self-realization, which is the higher one, is that when one understands that he has to make connection with the super soul. Thus, a yogi can gradually progress from an impersonal realization to a personal relationship. That means, however, that the super soul he is realizing will also gradually turn into Bhagavad. You see, just like Chatu Kumara, for example, in the beginning, they were Brahmavadi, impersonalists. They are Brahman realized, they are self-realized, but only up to Brahman realization. But by smelling the tulasi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, their mind changes and they become great devotee. So realization. Okay, text number 29. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord everywhere. Yumam pashyati sarvash. Yeah. Yumam pashyati sarvatra sarvam chamai pashyati. Lasyahamna pranashyami sachamina pranashyami. So that verse is explaining also that Yumam pashyati sarvatra. When somebody can see me everywhere. Yumam pashyati sarvatra. Sarvam chamai pashyati. And when someone can see that everything is in me, that means he always connected. The yogi sees equally because he sees that all living entities, although in different situations according to the result of their work, in all circumstances remain the servant of God. While in the material energy, the living entity serves the material senses. And while in the spiritual energy, he serves the Supreme Lord directly. In either case, the living entity is the servant of God. This vision of equality is perfect in the person in Krishna consciousness. So this is the vision of the Uttama Adhikari. The Uttama Adhikari will always think that everybody is devotee except me. Okay, even if somebody is not engaged in Krishna consciousness, he is engaged in Maya, the Uttama Adhikari will think, well, Maya is also Krishna's energy. So he is also serving Krishna's energy. Therefore, what is there? The need of preaching. Because everybody is devotee. Therefore, the general tendency of the Uttama Adhikari, they don't preach. They don't preach. Text number 30. Yeah, here it is. The verse that I just now quoted. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I'm never lost, nor he is ever lost to me. That means if we see Krishna everywhere, that Paramatma is situated everywhere, and everything is situated in Krishna. That means this universe, because this universe comes from the body of Mahavishnu, then that person will be able to see Krishna everywhere. When he sees stable, oh yeah, stable is also Krishna is residing in every atom. But that's like really elevated vision. Therefore, Krishna mentioned here, I'm never lost, nor he is ever lost to. So always connected to Krishna. A person in Krishna consciousness certainly sees Lord Krishna everywhere and sees everything in Krishna. Such a person may appear to see all separate manifestations of material nature, but in each and every instance, he is conscious of Krishna, knowing that everything is a manifestation of Krishna's energy. Nothing can exist without Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of everything. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. What is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness? Everything comes from Krishna. Aham sarvasya prabhav. At this stage, Lord Krishna never disappears from the sight of the devotee, nor does the devotee ever lose sight of the Lord. Okay. We have few minutes. Such a yogi, text number 31, such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the super soul, knowing that I and the super soul within all creatures are one, remain always in me in all circumstances. So one here refers to such yogi engages in worshipful service to the super soul, knowing that I and the super soul are one. That means knowing that Krishna, Bhagavan, and Paramatma, actually they are one. It's just different aspect of the Lord. Because the Mayavadis think that person who speak the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna is actually not that Krishna, but somebody who is within Krishna. So they don't know that actually Krishna in his body, what does it mean? Because Krishna is the super soul. So no different from Krishna outside and within. So this thing, they confuse. Sorry, my leg is getting cramped. Sorry. Vishnu is one, and yet he's certainly all-pervading. By his inconceivable potency, in spite of his one form, is present everywhere, as the sun appears in many places at once. So this Paramatma feature, that's how Krishna is all-pervading. So Krishna is one, but his energy is spread all over. Prabhupada gave the example just like sun. For example, if your window situated in the east side, okay, when the sun rises, then your mother used to tell you, my mother used to tell me when I was a kid, look, the sun already entered your room. Please get up, go to school. The sun is there, far away. The thing enter is only the sunrise, the sunlight. But she said that the sun already entered. Because just like this also, that's how Krishna is all pervading through the Paramatma feature. His energy is spread all over, and yet they are non-different. So that sun and the sunlight, in one sense, they are different, but at the same time, also, and in the other hand, also they are non-different. Okay, finally, the last one. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress. O Arjuna. One who is Krishna conscious is a perfect yogi. He is aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of his own personal experience. The cause of distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relationship with God. So this is the cause of our distress, when we are forgetting our relationship with Krishna. And the cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer and of all activities of the human being, proprietor of all lands and planets, and the sincere friend of all living entities. So Prabhupada referring to the last verse of the 5th chapter, Bhuktaram Yagya Tapasya, verse in his purport here. Because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute knowledge of Krishna everywhere, since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna conscious. He is the best philanthropist in the world, and he is the dearest servitor of the Lord. Ajatasman manusheshu chinme priya kritamaha bhavitana chametasman anya priya 18th chapter. The last we will see this Krishna tell to Arjuna that the preacher is very dear to Krishna. If we study also the Gopi Gita, the very famous verse Tavakatamritam, Tapta Jivanam, Kavibiritam, Kalmasapaham, Sravanamangalam, Srimadatam, Bhuvi Grinanti, Yeburi Da Jana. So that person is very magnanimous. Who is that person? The one who always eager to share Krishna Katha to others. Therefore, the preacher is now very special. And all of us meant to be preachers somehow or other. Doesn't mean that preacher is not, I meant to say, it is not that we have to conduct big seminar, big lectures in public, then we are recognized as preacher or distribute thousands of books every day, then we are considered to be preacher. No, if we can inspire another devotees to take up Krishna consciousness more seriously, that's also a great preacher. Even if we can inspire one person to take up Krishna consciousness seriously, that's great achievement. So preacher is not simply matter of person who can convert thousands of people into Krishna consciousness. But preacher means also a person who can inspire those who already in Krishna consciousness to become even more serious. Yeah, this is the last slide. He is sitting in human's heart. He is sitting in the ant's heart. He is sitting in the dog's heart. He is sitting in everyone's heart. But the cats and dogs, they cannot realize that is the difference. But a human being, if he tries, if he follows the yoga system, Sankhya yoga system, Bhakti yoga system, then he's able to find that. So Prabhupada mentioned that Krishna consciousness is meant for human being, not for cats and dogs. Of course, Paramatma is situated in everyone's heart, but cats and dogs, they cannot realize it. This is the prerogative of this human form of life. And if we miss this opportunity, we don't find out. If we don't identify our existence with the Lord, then we are missing this opportunity. This, after the evolutionary process coming through 8,000,004 lakh species of life, when we get this human form of life, if we miss this opportunity, then how much loss we suffer, you don't know. Yeah. Tulabhamanusam janma tad apya dhruvamartanam. Prahlad Maharaj said in that verse, Kumaramacharya pragyo dharmam bhagavatam durlabham manusam janma. That means this human form of life, durlabham, is very difficult to obtain. Durlabham manusam janma tad api adruvam artadam. So we have to make the best use of the bad bargain. This material body is meant to die. It's this material body full of suffering, miseries. But because we get human form of life, so yeah, should utilize. Utility is the principle. Books are the basis. Purity is the force. Preaching is the essence, and utility is the principle. So we have to utilize this special gift, human form of life. Even the demigods, they want to come in this very moment, Kali Yuga. But within this Kali Yuga now, actually, there is a Satya Yuga hidden. And the demigods, it is described in the 5th canto by Narad Muni. Even the demigods, they want to come to earth to assume human form of life in order to perfect their life very quickly. Okay, Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Yeah, that's all. Were there any questions or comment before we close this class? If there's no, I thank you very much. No question. Thank you very much. Vanchakalpatarubhyacha kripa sindhubhya evancha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.